Welcome to Deep Thought. The world of the future will be about philosophy. Now, what do I mean when I say that? It's not going to be a bunch of people like meditating on the meaning of like a dot or something, or, sitting around spouting philosophical goods or meanings of whatever, right? When I say philosophy, it's going to be more about how people are going to live their life. What's their mindset? What's their motive for doing things? Because if you look at all the isms that we have in the world, whether it's capitalism, communism, socialism, liberalism, conservatism, or you look at the religions of the world, the major religions, the Abrahamic religions, or even the shamanic religions, or even something like Confucianism, which is more for philosophy anyway, or Buddhism, or Hinduism. All of these are philosophies because what it is they are operating systems. They are operating systems. They are how people are going to interact with the world. See, if you're using the analogy of a computer, we're just the case for the computer. Our bodies are the cases, as a wise man said, meat bags. He is wise. It's like, but those meat bags are animated by our spirit, and whatever philosophy our spirit carries, that's how we're going to interact with the world, even to the point of affecting how we look. Oh yeah, philosophy. If your philosophy is to be hedonistic and just eat whatever, or eat whatever, don't exercise, that's actually a philosophy. And, if you put on a lot of weight and everything and that's all you want to do, that's a philosophy. That's affecting how you look. Now, somebody else with the philosophy of, keeping in shape and everything, shoot, what they going to be in physically, physically more muscular or slim, or, less overweight on them, because the reason why I say the world of the future is that way, it really is almost like that now. It's making a transition, right? Because even, you get a lot of people who might talk about something like white supremacy or white privilege or whatever, or even white nationalism. Those are philosophies. Because it's not a question of, you have some blacks who might, see all white people as, embracing white supremacy. But it's a philosophy in the sense that, yeah, you have many whites who embrace it, but you also have a whole lot of blacks who embrace it. It's a philosophy. It doesn't have anything to do with race. It's just a philosophy that whites are superior. And you have plenty of blacks who think it. That's a philosophy. Because you have plenty of whites who like, that's some bullshit. Or even in the white communities, if we're going to go there, anyone who really pays attention will see, no, you got different philosophies. There's a lot of conflict. Like, you see the conflict between a group like Antifa and the alt-right. They're the same race. Some people are probably fighting distant cousins and everything. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. You find out some instances, some Antifa person beat the hell out of an alt-right person, but if they did a genealogy thing, background check or something, they got a common grandmother. But it's the philosophies that separate them. I mean, the world now is a different philosophy. Different philosophies are running stuff, but it's going to be more pronounced. People think it's race, but because of one, things like the internet, where people can communicate across state lines, or nation boundaries and everything, or just with anybody across the world easier, people are going to gravitate more and more to the philosophy, especially since you have a lot more race mingling now. It's not going to be based on the race. Like some people think, people's thoughts are based inherently on their race, which is dumb as hell. If I use the white example, but if I use a black example, there's a big difference, and anybody can see this, in the mindset and even sometimes even the look between a Black Baptist and a Hebrew Israelite. It's almost you can tell a physical thing in their look, or a Hebrew Israelite and a Black Muslim. Even within the Black Muslims, because there's several sects of it, there's a difference in the philosophy, which causes, you have Nation of Islam, clean cut type, whereas, more Orthodox Black Muslim sect, they have beards, but that's part of it. And see, those philosophies affect how somebody, how they go through the world, how they mate. That's very important. In fact, I'll be doing something on my regular channel, a pay thing on, culture, race, religion, class, and the game. But the world of the future is going to be about it. It's already kind of there. There's an important book, The Clash of Civilizations by Samuel P. Huntington. And in that book, he talks about like 8 world civilizations, and it's basically split along religious lines. Islamic and Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, that these are really where the conflicts are. Even now, you could say that much of the conflict between the U.S. and something like ISIS is really spiritually based or religious based. It's based on philosophy. If you really look at the conflict between Muslims and Christians, even in this country, it's a philosophy. You can't really tell the difference. You get a lot. And I'll say that I've known. You can't say it's just a race thing, because I've known some whites who've become Muslim and just changed the philosophy. Like, for example, I knew this dude back in the day, right? Real Irish guy, like a redhead Irish guy, like had a slight accent and everything, right? And he started hanging around some Muslims. He was at this university in D.C. He started hanging around these Muslims, right? All of a sudden, everything started changing about him. I noticed, like, he was I would just say he was in decent shape when I first met him. Maybe a little slightly pudgy. Cool guy, though. Real cool guy. But he started hanging around Muslims. And I started noticing changes, well, one in his body, because he started fasting more. Like Ramadan came and that dude was into it. And then also noticed he actually changed his hair color purposely. He actually changed it to black. This dude had reddish hair. He changed it to black. But then I noticed the most interesting thing was he did, his speech intonation changed. He chose his words carefully. I was like, Like, it was like almost a total change. But see, that's not a biological change. And that's not a change based on nation state. It's based on a philosophy. Because even though people say that's a religion, it's really a way of living. It's a behavior system. It's a programming system. It's Windows 10 in like an old computer or something. It's a change in how he was doing stuff. Like if somebody came up with an operating system that was a rival to Windows 10, and they say, okay, we got this new system and stuff, and we can get it into your computer and stuff, it'll reprogram how your computer runs. And that's the same thing with philosophies. Because one of the things is the lines are blurring. As I said earlier, the lines are blurring between nation states and even races now. That's why you can get, now if you look at a lot of organizations now, you can get, or I'll use the black community. You can go and you can find those whites who, for whatever reason, identify more philosophically with blacks, hanging out and ready to fight. Ready to fight for blacks and everything. They can't help themselves because that's where their mind is. It's not a racial thing, Like, I know some people try to say that, or even if like that white alt-right idea about IQ and stuff. Someone actually did a study. They said it was blacks. Was it Episcopalians or something? Blacks who followed a certain Christian sect actually tested higher on IQ tests than others would. So that's a philosophy thing. They the same race. Or even behavior-wise. If anybody, I mean, anybody can see, like, there's a big difference in the behavior of a black Muslim male and just a regular cat out here. You know, just a regular cat who might just belong to a church. You can see the difference in behavior, how they carry themselves, how they walk, depending on the sect. You know, how they treat the women, family, and everything, how they look at stuff. Like one of my favorite books, for people who know me, is the Midnight series by Sister Soldier, where the main character is a Sudanese Muslim. But a big part of who he is his philosophy. And it's interesting, now that I mentioned Muslim, why even, like, I started really thinking about philosophy like that as the operating system and looking beyond just someone's physical race. Right? The reason why, I had a friend, he was interested in doing a comic book character, right? And they've actually done this in DC. But one of the things is, he said an interesting question. What if Superman was a Muslim? Or what if there's a Muslim superhero? How would they respond to stuff? Because that's one thing. They don't really talk about, like, religion in the comics. They might imply a little bit, but for the most part, they're not religious. You know, like I question this science fiction writer I know. You know, we had a little interesting conversation. It was like, would Superman believe in God? And seriously, think about that. Would Superman believe in God? So you got to understand, like, characters, like I know in my books, when I write my books, I always think about, one of the things when I do the character, I think about their religion. And in fact, you know, I just did a show where I had my books, Those Eyes, on sale. Every single character in there, I don't go into it too deep, but every single character got an idea about how they worship God. Some more than others. But that's a philosophy. Now, if you take another, it doesn't even have to be a religious philosophy. If you get, say, you could actually create a whole new ethnic group, which is a process called ethnogenesis, right? And you know what? Let me know if y'all want. I'll do a video on that, because that's a deep philosophical thing, ethnogenesis. You know, how different groups can be created where they different groups can be created where you know, different ethnic groups can be created. I'm sorry, I got caught up with something real quick, but let me know if y'all want me to do something on that. But just a brief thing of different philosophies on how to do things. Like, there's some nuances between a mainland Chinese and Taiwanese. Now, anyone who knows the history knows that, you know, during Mao's revolution, the nationalists, you know, they went to Taiwan, or, you know, Taipei. And there's almost a difference in, like, how they developed. Like, a lot of people don't talk about it, and it's a sore spot with China, but, you know, you gradually got a different development because there's a different philosophy. There's a different way of doing things, you know? And I think that's what the world is going to become more of in the future. It's already like that now, even though people don't realize it, but I think it's going to become more pronounced because of different things, despite protectionism, movements and, like, nativist movements in different countries. You can't really stop the thing of time. This one world thing is coming, whether people like it or not. But you still gonna have people doing things according to different philosophies and everything, even carving out you know, little niches here and there according to their philosophy. So anyway, let me know what y'all think. And definitely let me know if y'all want me to do something on ethnogenesis, because that's deeper. That's something a lot of people don't talk about. Very few people talk about, but it's a very powerful thing because you literally create a new ethnic group. So anyway, right, that's it for today. Keep rising and transforming. Peace.